Hey, what's up? I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. Give this video a like.
Check out our podcast also below in the description. Do it now.
49ers handed Bill Belichick his worst home loss in New England ever. 27 points, Middlecoff. And now the Niners are 4-3, 3-0 on the road, whatever that worth to you. Got a Seattle game coming up, which we'll get to. But it feels like now they got some injuries we got to talk about too. But Jimmy looks solid. Defense looks good. Kind of got their act back on track.
Yeah, I mean, it was a get-right game against, I think it's fair to say, a really shitty team. Now, what good teams do against shitty teams is they destroy them. And that game was over definitely at halftime. But I'd say about early on in the second quarter, like, this team doesn't belong on the same field. Like, it crossed my mind probably 20 minutes into the game. The only way they lose this if Jimmy starts throwing picks. And he did have a fucking horrendous pick. I mean, a horrendous little side sling to Kittle where the Patriots, I mean, they had like four defenders. Like Kittle, it was an awful decision. Kyle kind of, I wouldn't say lambasted him. You can't really tell with the mask on, right? But it looked like Kyle had the look in his eye like Jimmy. I worked extra hard this week. I'm playing the GOAT. I want to kick his ass. And you're fucking airmailing passes when wouldn't you say that first drive was like, God, the Niners kind of got their mojo back after the Rams game. And the only thing that's going to hold him back is Jimmy. But then Jimmy looks good. I'm like, oh, Jimmy's got his mojo back. Then he does that. You're like, oh, my God. But I texted a buddy on the Chiefs last night, and I said, you know who Kyle is? He's Andy of the runs. And when I say the runs, I don't mean what I had Monday morning. I mean what Andy does passes, right? Loves passes. And was it
too much alcohol and ice cream this weekend?
Yeah, no, not much ice cream, but a lot of alcohol and pizza and food. What was the game? Was it Romo and Nance or Al Michaels? The Chiefs just fucking played on a game that I feel like everyone was watching, and they said
Chiefs Bills?
Oh, yeah, so it was Monday night or whatever. And, oh, yeah, Romo and Nance did it on that Monday. Yeah. And how Andy always talks about the game plan, We're going to run it. And then in the game, he always ends up passing it. Yeah. Kyle doesn't necessarily do that. To me, he's just candid with what he does going to do and then does it or just doesn't talk much about it. But one thing is consistent. He loves the run like Andy Reid loves the pass. And, like, his offense is predicated on the run. Like, everything goes off the run, which I think more and more we see these young coaches – you kind of get famous now by throwing it. And really, it's been that way for a couple decades, right? Hell, it's been that way since Walsh. But his run game is remarkable. And when it's on, you bludgeon and fucking gash people. And he destroyed Belichick. Now, in fairness, like, I don't hold that. Like, Belichick was running out guys. There's Gunner. There's Bill. You know, it's like beside Gilmore and McCourty, I haven't heard of some of these players, Guy. The team's terrible, and they kick the shit out of them.
For people who've been listening to the podcast for several weeks, you and I, Middlecoff, we've been watching the Patriots, and we've been saying Cam Newton is he's not playing very well, and this team doesn't have any talent to help him on top of that. Now, that doesn't mean you expect that. Like, you don't – I didn't expect 33-6. But you're right. And Romo, you could tell, was basically, as the game was wearing on, even before the score got big – you could tell he felt like the Patriots didn't have what it took. The Jimmy pick was bad, but then they hold him to a field goal, and then the next drive was like this just insane Jeff Wilson, just bam, looking like Raheem Mostert drive. Yeah. And then they scored a touchdown, and then Fred Warner gets the pick, and then it kind of felt like, okay, this is their game. And Jimmy, I thought, even with the pick, they did push the ball down the field a little more. This was a better game for him than last week. Do you agree with that?
Oh, but I mean, he was for the most part, that interception. I didn't think he had that many bad throws in the game. No. I thought he was really on point. And we always say, and I heard Aaron Rodgers say this with McAfee a couple weeks ago going into the Tampa game. He's like, the media asked this fucking question every time that you play Peyton Manning or Russell Wilson or Tom Brady. Like, what's it like playing Tom Brady? He's always like, guys, I play quarterback. He plays quarterback. We don't play each other. We're never on the field together. And he's right. It's the BP fastball for the media, even though it's a stupid question. But where we always talk about, you can compare when you watch Mahomes and Josh Allen or Jimmy and Cam, you do get the ebb and flow of just seeing the two guys and like what quarterback is playing better. I'm not comparing. I mean, Cam, that guy, and you have been saying this for a couple of weeks. Last week, Drew Lock, who might not be good, was 10 of 24 and beat him. Cam, that's the worst game I've ever seen him play. Now, I haven't watched every game of his career. I mean, he was 9 of 15 for 98 yards, 3 picks, and just skipping ball. I mean,
he looked like benched. Garoppolo looked against the Dolphins.
Worse, probably.
Okay. He looked bad. He looked terrible.
He looked bad.
It was one of those where you get benched and you're like, that's not even a benching. That's something. That's just a quit.
We're just waving the white flag. If
done. Belichick and Shanahan could have met at midfield at the beginning of the fourth quarter, been like running clock or just hit the showers, they would have done it, right?
Yeah. Like there wasn't much point. I'd say less than halfway through the third quarter, like what are we even doing? And then guys go down, and it was like, oh, this is terrible. But the game was, it wasn't even really competitive. But this is back to the Niners, where after they had lost those 2 games, we had said this game, listen, it's Belichick, and you never know what kind of Cam game you get. That to me looked like, even as much as the Rams game was less about even just execution, more just about desperation. You lost 2 games. You're playing the Rams. You lose that game. You ain't playoffs. We have to go Jim Mora Senior playoffs. And this was, okay, we've got our mojo back a little bit at 3-3. We're just good. Let's just play well. And then you get a shitty opponent and you destroy them. That looked like the 2019 NFC champion Niners, right? Come out, bad team, beat the shit out of them. Pack your shit, go home.
Both safeties out, right? You're down your center. You're down multiple guys on offense and defense, but you don't play like you are. You play like you're supposed to win the game, which, again, is what we said last week. We did the YouTube video. We talked about it on the podcast. The Niners have the advantages in this game. The other thing was, for all the issues, like this defense, the Belichick defense made Waller a non-factor, made Gesicki a non-factor, made Kelsey a non-factor. Kittle had a big impact in the game, it felt like early, right? Ayuk was fantastic. Debo was fantastic. It just felt like the Niners were able to – maybe Belichick took Kendrick Bourne away. Maybe that was the game plan, John. But it felt like the Niners were able to do what they wanted to do on offense. Again, these aren't the same Patriots, but they have played good defense against some other teams this year. They held the Chiefs – although I probably shouldn't even count that game. That game was too weird. They've made it hard on people, and they did not make it hard on the 49ers. Credit to Kyle. Credit to their – to me, one of the scariest moments was when Jason Verrett went down, and early in the first half, and they had a shot of Robert Salah, and you could tell even under the mask he was a little spooked.
Well, it was like Brian Allen. I was like, oh,
is he on this trip? But then it was fine, and they did what they were supposed to do, beyond what they were supposed to do. Like you said, they looked like, and by the way, you were, I think you tweeted this, and we've been talking about it. Fred Warner just looks like an absolute superstar.
Yeah, I mean, is he a first-team All-Pro guy this year?
Yeah, Dickinson. Yes, is he a potential Defensive Player of the Year at some point?
I mean, it feels like Aaron Donald has the market corner. Now we're recording this before Monday Night Football. To me, Donald has like that momentum. Like he's going to win 3 and 4 years kind of going for him. I do think like this is the type of week you keep winning, right? To me, if the Niners win more than the Rams, I think he'd have a good case because he's making that play that he made, guy.
The pick?
That looked like Antonio Brown or like a linebacker. I think Willis and Bowman were better. And that's not like diminishing Fred. I just think those arguably 2 of the best linebackers I've ever seen, besides like Ray fucking Lewis. Now Bowman's time was a little shorter. Willis did it for a longer period of time. Are we sure that either one of them make that pick? Like that is a remarkable play. Remarkable. Even Sherman's tweeting like, "Are we kidding? What are we? What?"
I like analysts. I hate them not having Sherman, but I like Sherman on Twitter on NFL Sunday.
Well, he just throws in like randoms, like, damn, I didn't know Justin Herbert had this type of arm. You're like, whoa, he's got a white. But he also prefaced it by like, not watching the game, I'm watching our game because they were on at the same time, but getting highlights. And I'm like, I wanted to be like, he's not lying. The highlights are coming on during the Niners game.
He's on Twitter. He's checking. I mean, Romo. I think one thing for Warner, right, is you play in big games. You have to win in order to do that. And then guys like Romo say things like, "This is the best linebacker in the NFL." Right. And there's just defense is a little more nuanced than offense in terms of it's harder to get all your big splash plays in on Twitter. Romo multiple times would show a replay of Warner and just say, look, he's doing something nobody else can do. So to me, if you're the best linebacker, if you're the best nose tackle in the NFL, you're probably not winning. It's going to be hard to win Defensive Player of the Year. If you're the best safety, then you get splash plays. If you're the best corner, maybe no one throws at you. But if you're the best linebacker in the NFL, you're just involved in so much stuff. You're just going to have a shot at that position to be the best.
I would say when you were watching the Tampa game, Devin White's kind of established himself as one of the stars in the league too. Listen, I'd really have to text around. I would say the 2 All-Pro middle linebackers right now would be Devin White and Fred Warner. If that's your team, you feel pretty good. The difference is Devin White was the 5th pick in the draft. You can get, and this is where I think sometimes when the Niners are playing bad, you're the depth issues. They have missed on a lot of picks. I mean, Pettis situation, it's Kyle's yeah, we'll probably trade him. I don't know if anyone will take. They don't even give a fuck anymore. They're just yeah, I don't have the energy to pretend yeah, if someone wants him, hey, give me a call or call John. We're here, Corona, we're being our office mask on. Give me a buzz. But I do think when you draft Devin White at 5, right, or when the Niners drafted Pat Willis, was he the 10th pick in the draft or what? You're expecting a star, Bosa, right? When you draft guys really high, it's why it's devastating when you take a Solomon Thomas or a Cleveland Farrell. When you get an All-Pro, and the Niners have experienced this with Kittle, you just feel we got our best player in the 5th round. Are you kidding me? In Seattle, right? They really created their franchise off Sherman in the 5th, Russell in the 3rd, a 4th rounder for Marshawn, even Bobby Wagner in the 2nd. I'd say that about 2nd round picks too. It's everyone's God, this Debo's a motherfucker. Well, you didn't take him in the 1st. You took him in the 2nd. It feels incredible. Fred Warner, you get an All-Pro linebacker in the 3rd round. It doesn't get much better than that. Nah. So you're telling me arguably their 2 best players beside Bosa are 3rd and 5th round picks? The 2 best players on this team, right, are Kittle and Fred Warner. With Bosa being out.
Bosa out, yeah.
So it's and they're not just oh, your best players, No, they are all pros. Is Kittle, would you say? Sure. Is he the first team All-Pro? I guess Kelsey'd probably be in the mix. The stats are going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know if Kittle's numbers, I haven't looked at it from that
Kittle does get a lot of credit for blocking.
He does.
Does it feel Kittle's a lock 1st or 2nd team as long as he stays healthy the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think so.
You just watch him, you go okay, if you want maybe Kelsey,
gotta check
he catches 100 balls
numbers,
or whatever. Well, Tua, that might be his go-to guy.
The great thing about Fred Warner, I don't think he's a BYU guy, but I don't think he was a Mission guy, right? He's only 23.
His brother is, when I was watching him a couple weeks ago, was making plays as a DB on that team. So I don't know what his dad does, but he's got pretty powerful sperm there. The Warners are coming, guy. Literally and figuratively.
I was wondering if you were going to catch that.